So guys, today we have to discuss a type of routing, that is static routing. Yesterday we discussed two flavors of static routing, one by using next stop, second by using. This particular thing can work in any case, agree or not? But if I talk about exit interface, only in, not in fast Ethernet. Why? Why? Because there was a problem that router was not able to reply for my R. This thing is clear to all of you? Clear? Okay. Next thing. Case study. First of all, we will discuss what is loop. Guys, just take this thing like this. This is a router. This is one more router. This is one more router. Fine. This is network X, this is network Y, this is network Z. What we people think? If I am saying this is network X, we people think that there will be a switch and some users will be connected to the switch. Agree or not? Instead of creating a physical network, I will create a logical network. That logical network is called loopback. Okay, let me give you an example. Fine. You are connected to ISP. Now, you are sitting here, you are working in a company, you are an employee. Fine. The thing is, your internet is not working. Fine. You will call your network admin. You will complain him that my internet is not working. Please do something. What he will do? What he will do? First of all, he will ping from his router to ISP. Agree or not? And what he is able to see, the ping is successful. The ping is successful. Then why your internet is not working? Now just try to understand. Whenever on this router I will write ping, fine, and I will write www.google.com. The source in the ping. Just try to understand. You are sending a message to the google.com. Agree? In that message there will be a source and there will be a destination. Fine? Now, what will be the source? What will be the source? Understand it like this. To select source, router will check routing table, agree, and router will choose source as exit interface IP. This thing is clear? Router will select source as exit interface IP. Okay, let's say this IP is 200.200.200.1. Fine. This network is 200.200.200.0/30. Any issues? Guys, try to understand. 200's network is directly connected to router. This thing is clear? But what network admin want to check? Network admin want to check that this network is having connectivity to the internet or not. This thing is clear. By default, whenever whenever he will write ping www.google.com, source will be exit interface IP. It means from router, this network is reachable to the internet, not that network. Agree? So what you can do is, I can write on router what? Ping www.google.com. After that, source FA0/0. Source is FA0/. Now, what I am saying to router, please send a ping to google.com with a source of IP address assigned on FA0/0. This time router is checking reachability of this network to this network. Agree? This thing is clear. Now what is loopback? What is loopback? I can do the same thing by creating a loopback on my router. What I want to check? I want to check connectivity. That this physical network is reachable to Google or not. Agree or not? This thing I want to check. To check this thing, I can create a loopback. There are many situations in real time when physical network is not present and you want to check reachability. At that time, what you configure there? Loopback. Agree? And you can source that loopback by using this particular command. We will discuss it when we will discuss about the practical. This thing is clear? So there are two things. Whenever you ping from router will use the source as exit interface IP address. Agree? Second thing, but what I want to check is, I want to check the network which is existing at my back is reachable to internet or not. So for that thing, what I can do is I can add a keyword called source and I can use a particular source in the ping. Fine. So now just think like I am deploying a network. Fine. This is my router. This is internet. There is no physical network present here. No physical network. This time what I will do? I will create a loopback. Agree? I will say ping www.google.com source loopback. This time source will be the IP address assigned to the loopback. This thing is clear? Any problem? Next thing. Loopback always represents a single host. It means you have to create loopback on /32. You have to create loopback on /. You can create loopback on /24, /16, /8. But in real time, we always create loopback on /32. This thing is clear? Why we are doing this? Try to understand. If I am using a network of /30, it means how many users are there? 2. If I am using a network of /28, how many users are there? 14. If I am using a network of /26, how many users are there? 62. If I am using a network of /24, how many users are there? 254. 250? But this time I am creating a loopback. Loopback will always be a single IP. So I have to create a network that consists of single user. So that's why I am creating network at /32. How? Look here. Like 10.10.10.10. 255.255.255.255. It means 10.10.10.10/32. Agree? This means a single host. Any problem? Any issues? No. Case study. What we are discussing here is case study. What's the case study? Which routers you can use? You can use 1800 series routers. Fine. You can use 3600, 3700. You will not use 7200 series router now. Fine. How many routers I have taken? 2. Everybody know how to use DNS? Okay. Cable is okay. Cable is fast Ethernet. Visible? Between R1 and R2 we will use a network of 12.0.0/8. On R1 we will create a loopback 1.1.1.1/32. On R2 we will create a loopback 2.2.2.2/32. Guys, just tell me, is there any problem in loopbacks now? Any issues? Anything which is not clear in loopbacks? Okay. Conf T. Any issue? Now I am defining a route. IP route 2.2.2. Exit interface. Listen to me carefully. Exit interface FA0/ show IP route Is there any route? Why? Always keep one thing in mind, whether I am defining my route by using next hop or I am defining my route by using exit interface. If I am defining my route by using next hop and next hop is not reachable, router will never install the route in routing table. If you are defining your route by using exit interface and for that exit interface status and protocol are not up, router will never define that route in routing table. It means for next hop must be reachable. For exit interface must be up. This thing is clear? Now, interface FA0/ no. Fine. Show IP. Do I have a route? Why? Any route? Show IP interface brief. Protocol is up, status is up, but still I don't have show IP route. Why? Because IP is not assigned. Interface FA0/0 IP address 12.0.0. Now I have both the routes. Try to understand there are two things. Fine. When I am using next hop, router will check next hop is reachable or not. How router will check? No, not by sending packets. Router will check its own routing table. This thing is clear? Now I defined exit interface as FA0/0. Router will check, do I have entry for FA0/0 in my routing table? No. Earlier I was not having an entry. Now when I assign IP address to the interface, I got the entry. That's why I got static root in my routing table. This thing is clear? Any problem? Now I will go to R2. Conf t interface fa0/0 IP address. Fine. Interface, okay, sorry. So fast. Look here on R1. How you will create the loopback? Interface, loopback, after that a number. What number you want to assign? Let's say 1. IP 1.1.1. Subnet mask 255.255.255. Any issue? On R2 also we will define interface loopback 1. On router 1 I am having an interface fa0/0. On router 2 I am having the same interface fa0/0. Does it matters? So I can have same loopback interfaces on 2 routers. It will not make a difference. Fine. IP address 2.2.2. Fine. There is no need to no shut the loopback. Loopback is by default no shut. See now, show IP route. How many networks are there? 2 networks which are directly connected to R2. What are they? Read it out. Any issue? Now I have to define second network IP space route. Fine. 1.1.1. fa0/ show IP route. I have a route. S means static. What will be the AD for this route? 1. AD will be 1. This thing is clear? You want to check? Show IP route. Distance is 1. This thing is fine. So today we have to discuss about proxy ARP. So what is the command to check proxy ARP? Proxy ARP is enabled on an interface or not? What you can see here? Proxy ARP is? Okay, let us discuss about proxy ARP first of all. Guys, now look here. This is R1, this is R2. This is X1, this is X2. These are the IP addresses. This is Y1, this is Y2. Fine. These are the different IP addresses we are using here. Fine. His MAC address is A, his MAC address is B, C, D, E and F. Fine. Now let us discuss a case. Y1 want to communicate with Y2. On R1, I am performing which routing? Static routing using exit. On R2 also I am using static routing using exit interface. Agree? Now Y1 want to communicate with Y2. Now what Y1 will do? First of all, source will be Y1, destination will be, source MAC will be A, destination MAC will be B. He will send packet to R1. Agree? Now when R1 receive the packet, R1 will check in its routing table that Y2 network is directly connected. Agree? Okay. I will show you these things side by side. How? On R1, you can see here, show IP, sorry. I have 2 interfaces, on which I am assigning IP address. Agree or not? Any problem? Show run section IP route. What do you mean by this command? I am saying to my router, show running configuration, not full, a part of it. Which part? Which part consists of a section IP space route. He will show me the command only. I have entered this command on router by using exit interface. Agree? How my routing table entry is built? Show IP route. 2.2.2 is directly connected to which interface? FA0/0. Agree? Now, R1 will think that Y2 network is directly connected to R1. So what R1 will do? R1 will generate a ARP. In that ARP, source will be X1, destination will be Y2. Agree? That ARP will be sent to R2. Now the game of proxy ARP comes into play. On this interface, what I told you, by default, which feature is enabled? Proxy ARP. Agree? Now, what this router will do? This router will check, first thing, my interface IP is X2. This thing is clear? But ARP is generated for Y2. This thing is clear. Second thing, proxy ARP is enabled. Agree? I have to check, do I know about Y2 network or not? See, first thing, if proxy ARP is disabled, router will check in the ARP packet, destination IP is Y2, my interface IP is X2, drop the packet. If proxy ARP is enabled, first of all, router will check in the ARP packet, destination IP is, my interface IP is, okay, proxy ARP is enabled. It means now I will check, do I know about Y2 network or not? I know about Y2 network? Yes. Do I know about Y2 network or not? Yes, I know about it. Why? Because Y2 network is directly connected. Agree? Next thing, Y2 network is, it means I can reply for this ARP. Now, this particular phenomenon is called proxy ARP. What do you mean by proxy? अच्छी बात है, फीस तो नहीं दी आपने कभी उसकी, प्रॉक्सी दी. हाँ जी, प्रॉक्सी किसी की आइडेंटिटी स्टील कर लेना, स्टीलिंग समवन्स आइडेंटिटी. आई एम एक्चुअली नॉट Y2 but I am replying in place of Y2, so the other person will understand me as Y2. Agree? So what this router will do this time, router will say, okay, MAC address for Y2 is D. MAC address for Y2 is D. He will give this reply to R1. Agree? Now R1 has the MAC address of Y2. It means R1 can send the traffic. How R1 will send the traffic? Source IP will be Y1, destination will be, source MAC will be C, destination will be D. This thing is clear? Now router will send traffic to R2. Now R2 will send traffic to Y2. This thing is clear? Any issues? Now what happened? Now Y2 will reply. When Y2 will reply, source will be Y2, destination will be Y1. source MAC will be F, destination MAC will be E. Y2 will send traffic to R2. Now R2 will again see one thing, that Y1 network is directly connected to me. R2 will again generate a ARP. In that ARP generated by R2. In this ARP, source will be X2, destination will be Y1. Agree? This thing is clear. This ARP is received by R1. Now R1 will say, my interface IP is X1, but in the R packet, destination IP is Y1. Proxy ARP is enabled. Y1 network is directly connected to me, so I can reply. I can reply with the MAC address of X1, that is C. This thing is clear? So this particular feature is called proxy ARP, which is by default enabled on all the fast Ethernet interfaces. Which is by default enabled on all the Ethernet interfaces or fast Ethernet. Do you find this feature on serial interfaces? No, never. Why? Because on serial interfaces there are no MAC addresses. There are no MAC addresses. This thing is fine. Now guys, what is the problem with this case? The main thing is that with the help of proxy ARP they are able to communicate. What's the problem? Try to understand. This is R1, this is R2. This is network A. This is user A1, this is user A2, A3. This is network B. User B1, user B2, user now this is, let's say C1, this is, let's say C2. Fine. A1 want to communicate with B1. A1 will send packet to R1. Now R1 will generate a ARP. Source will be C1. Destination will be B1. Destination will be R1 will generate a ARP for the first time. Fine. Second time, when A2 has to communicate with B2, R1 will again generate a ARP. When A3 has to communicate with B3, R1 will again generate a ARP. It means every time you have to communicate with a new user, router has to generate a ARP. This thing is clear? So, to keep my network ARP free, I will never use this particular method. This thing is clear? Fine. Shall we discuss? Let's discuss, man. Fine. Now, how? Okay, on both the routers I have routes. Show IP route, static. Do you have any problem with GNS? Topology is clear? Any problem with the topology? No. R2? Say ping 2.2.2.2 source. Now you have two options. Either you can write here loopback number. Loopback 1. I am able to communicate. Agree or not? When I check my ARP table, show IP, I have MAC address of 2.2.2.2, which is same as 12.0.0.2. You can see here. Any issues? And this information is wrong. This information is wrong. Actually 2.2.2 is not having this particular MAC address. Who is having this MAC address? Let's check. Show interface FA0/0. I am on R2 and I am checking which interface? FA0/. You can check here. Sorry. Fine. Short way. Don't have to see the full result. This is the MAC address. Who is having this MAC address? R2's interface FA0/0. And on R1 it is showing that 2.2.2 is having particular MAC address. This thing is clear? Fine. Yesterday I shown you if proxy ARP is disabled, they will never communicate. Today I have shown you if proxy ARP is enabled, they will communicate. You can check the same things on R2 also. Show IP route. I have route for 1.1.1.1. So I can ping 1.1.1. You can use source like this also. Source 2.2.2.2. Fine. Any issue? I am able to ping. Show IP. I have MAC address of 1.1.1.1. Who is having this MAC address actually? 12.0.0.1. Okay. On R1 I can check. Show interface FA0/0 section. Django. Any issue? Clear? Shall we move on? Next topic. This is brief introduction about static routing. Fine. Next thing. नहीं अरे लूप बैक का कभी भी कोई लूप बैक इज नेवर हैविंग अ मैकेट यार इट्स नॉट अबाउट लूप बैक अगर यहाँ पे एक यूजर भी होता तब भी यही स्टेट होता ऐसा मत सोचो कि लूप बैक वो मैक एड्रेस यूज कर रहा है आप तो गलत कहानी समझ रहे हो फिर इफ यू आर थिंकिंग लाइक दिस द लूप बैक इज यूजिंग द मैक एड्रेस यू आर ऑन अ रॉन्ग वे व्हाट आई एम सेइंग if we have a user here he will also use this particular MAC address हम ये बात कर रहे थे इतनी देर से फाइन इसी we will continue with this topic and we will move on to default routing. One question to all of you. All of you have checked your routing table? Guys, what is this thing? What is gateway of last resort? What do you mean by this thing? I agree with you, it's a default route, I agree with everything. What is it? How many of you know about this thing? What is gateway of last resort? Gateway of last resort means if I don't know about a specific destination where I have to go. Okay. Let us take an example. Fine. R1, R2, R3, fine. This is LAN A, this is LAN B, this is LAN C, this is LAN D, fine. This is ISP, this is Facebook, this is Google, this is YouTube, this is poet.com, okay. Or you can have like xray.com we have, fine. There can be any number of websites on internet, fine. ठीक है जी. तो we were discussing that if R1 want to reach network B, let's say these are the next hops, x1, x2, y1, y2, z1, z2. Let's talk about R1. If R1 want to reach network B, what will be the next hop? If R1 want to reach network C, what will be the next hop? Z2. If R2 want to reach network A or B, what will be the next hop? X1. If R2 want to reach network C, what will be the next hop? Agree? If R3 want to reach network A or B, Z1. If R3 want to reach network A or D, sorry, network B, Y1. Fine, fine. Any issue? Now, a user who is sitting in network A want to reach facebook.com. He will send packet to R1. R1 will say, I know about how many networks? R1 know about, let's say, X, Z, A, D, B and C. R1 don't know about Facebook. So what R1 will do? R1 will drop the packet. Fine. So in this case, in my routing table, I don't have a specific route, but I still want to send packet to the internet. Agree or not? I don't have a specific. Guys, one more thing. It's not possible also that you have a specific route for internet. Why? Because on internet there are millions of servers. You cannot have millions of static routes in your routing table. So, to make your routing table small and routers work easy, what you will use? Default route. What is default route? What I will say R1? I will say R1 IP space route 0.0.0.0.0.0. Next hop Z2. What do you mean by this thing? For any destination with any mask, send packet to Z2. Now, just think like a user sitting in network A want to communicate with user sitting in network B. Packet is received by R1. R1 will first of all check its routing table. Do I have an entry for network B? Yes. He will forward packet to X2. Now, just think like user sitting in network A want to communicate with a user on internet. User will send packet to R1. Now R1 will check its routing table. R1 will say, I don't have an entry for specific network. Agree or not? I don't have an entry for. So what I will use? Default route. My gateway will be Z2. Fine. This time on R1 you will find gateway for 0.0.0.0 is Z2. This thing is clear? What do you mean by gateway? What do you mean by default route? It's clear. When it's not possible for you to make multiple entries, what you will do? You will make a single entry. And always keep one thing in mind. Default route is always checked in the end when no specific route is there. This thing is clear? Default route is always checked in the end when no specific route is there. हाँ जी, सब राउटर्स पे डिफॉल्ट राउटिंग करनी पड़ती है. You are right. So on R1 I will define a default route pointing towards Z2. On R2 I will define a default route pointing towards. On R3 I will define a default route pointing towards ISP. Let's say this is P1, this is P2. So next hop will be P2. This thing is clear? Any problem? Okay. Guys, first of all, let me introduce you to the IP addressing scheme that I will use. Between 3 and 4, I will use IP addressing of 34. Now, what will be the IP address on 3 and what will be the IP address on 4? On R3, IP address will be 34003. On 34, IP address will be 34004. Between 3 and 5, I will use IP addressing 35. On R3, IP will be 35003. On R5, IP will be. Any issue? समझ में आ गया? Clear? Between 4 and 5. Between 5 and 6. 56. Fine. See, let's say who is this? Fine. Let's say on internet we have a loopback. What is a loopback? 8.8.8. Fine. Is there any need to write IP addresses here? Fine. On R1, R3, I will create a loopback. On R4, I will create a loopback. 4.4.4.4. This thing is fine. Diagram is visible? Now? Fine. So I will try to be slow. हाँ यार एक बात बताओ, एक क्वेश्चन है आप लोगों से, एक मिनट पूछता हूँ. इंटरफेस लूपबैक IP एड्रेस 3.3.3. प्लीज डोंट गेट ऑफ ट्रैक. सोचना है आपको. ये कंप्यूटर है, इसको मैंने किससे कनेक्ट किया, कौन सी केबल यूज करूंगा?
पक्का करके दिखाओगे? लैब में चलोगे मेरे साथ? मेरी बात का जवाब दो। मैंने ऐसा बोला होता या नहीं होता? मैंने ऐसा बोला? मैंने बोला लैब में चलूंगा, करके दिखाओगे? मैं तो आपको कह ही नहीं रहा हूं, मुझे दोनों बातें पता हैं, कब होगा और कब नहीं होगा। छोड़ दो उस चीज को। मैं कह रहा हूं लैब में चलूंगा, मुझे करके दिखाओगे? कंप्यूटर और स्विच को क्रॉस केबल से कम्युनिकेट करवा के दिखा देना। यार मजाक नहीं कर रहा, ट्राई कर लेना जाके। लॉजिक बताना चाहता था मैं, तो इसलिए क्वेश्चन पूछा था। क्यों यूज करते हैं स्ट्रेट केबल व्हेन वी हैव टू कनेक्ट फ्रॉम कंप्यूटर टू स्विच? नाउ IP addressing is done on R1, sorry R3. We will move on to R4. IP address, no, sorry यार, no, interface FA0/045.0.0. no, interface loopback, one IP address, परेशान हो गया। These are the commands that I have configured on R4. Fine. Now we will move on to R5. IP space, sorry यार, interface FA0/1 IP address 45.0.0.5. परेशान हो गया यार मैं अभी इससे। इंटरफेस FA1/0 IP एड्रेस 56.0.0. No, this thing is clear. Now I am coming on R6. Interface FA0/0 IP address 56.0.0. No. Interface loopback, one IP address. Exit. This thing is clear. Now I have to configure routes. What I have to configure? Routes. How I will configure? On R3 first of all. Look here. On R3 I have to define how many routes? 2 routes. One for R4's loopback and other default route. Other default route. Show IP route. First of all check the routing table. Do I have any route? How many networks are directly connected? 3. One is loopback, 2 are physical interfaces. Fine. Now IP space route 4.4.4.4 255.255.255. Next stop will be 34.0.0.4. Fine or not? Fine to everyone. Next will be default route IP space 0.0.0.0.0.0.0. Next stop will be 35.0.0.5. Agree? 35.0.0.5. Any issue? Yes. Who said yes? किसी ने बोला था ना yes? कोई issue? Show IP route. Now one route is this. For 4.4.4.4 next stop is for 0.0.0.0. Next stop is, check this thing. Gateway of last resort is 35.0.0. 5 for network 0.0.0. What do you mean by this thing? Router is saying, if I will not able to find destination network in the routing table, I will send traffic to which next hop? 35.0.0.5. Now on R4 we have to define two routes, again a default route and one route for network 3.3.3.3. Fine. IP space route 3.3.3. Next hop will be 34.0.0.3. Next hop. Oye. Next stop. 45.0.0.5. क्यों 5? Understand the IP addressing. Fine. Look here. Show IP. One is static route, one is default route, and gateway of last resort is set. Fine. Now on R5. This time we need three routes. One for 3.3.3.3, one for, and one is default route. IP space 35.0.0.3. Fine. Any problem? $45.00. Next. Okay. Done? Now, just tell me one thing. If I try to ping from R3 to Internet Baba, do I ping? Yes or no? Bro, see. जिस बातों में नहीं बहते, बात सुनते हैं. ये मैंने कमांड चलाई, सोच लो तुमने नहीं देखी. Fine. Otherwise, I will get this error again and again. I don't want to see this error. That's why I disabled CDP. Fine. Now, guys, if I check routing table of R6, who is Internet Baba? Show IP. How many routes are there? 2. Guys, just try to understand. If some packets from 3.3.3 will reach R6, Internet Baba, how he will reply? He also need a route. Agree or not? Agree or not? He has to reply. He also needs a route. So where's the route? There is no route. So we have to define a route on R6 also. We will define a default route. IP space route. After that, 56.0.0.5. Fine. Now see. Now see magic. Ping 8.8.8. Source. Ping 4.4.4.4 source. Now I will use another utility, trace route, to check the path. Fine. If I want to reach 4.4.4.4 from source 3.3.3.3, my path is 34.0.0. 4. Agree or not? But if I want to reach my path is 35 and 56. This thing is clear? Fine. Any problem? Any issue? From R4 also you can check all the things. How? First of all, ping. Able to ping? Ping. Now? Fine? Sorry. This thing is done. होमवर्क दूं एक? ठीक है. From R3 I want to ping like this. So we need to configure. How we will configure? First of all, I have to configure R3 as DNS client, R6 as DNS server. So I will define a command IP name server. Who is the name server? Any problem? No IP domain name. Why I am doing this? If I will not do this, yes, we discussed this thing. Okay. याद है क्या डिस्कस किया था कि if I will define the domain name, router will always add the name I want to resolve with the domain name and send it to the server. On the server, the entry exists for my name, not for name plus domain name. Agree? Okay, very good. I will go on R5. I will write IP name 8.8.8.8, no IP domain name. We have discussed this command also. IP domain lookup. Fine. On R3 also we have to define this command IP domain. If you want to check your domain name lookups are enabled or not, what is the command? Show up. Guys, that day also I told you that in this iOS that command will not run. The command is show IP DNS view. Show IP DNS view. You will able to run that command on iOS 15.2. Fine. Now on R6, first thing, IP DNS server. Next thing, IP host. Internet underscore Baba. IP is it will be like this. We cannot add underscore or something. Fine. Internet Baba. Fine. Any problem? All things done? Shall I ping? Ping? Ping, man. Ping. Internet. Ping, man. Internet Baba is saying, भविष्य सफल रहे तुम्हारा. Let's start. Dynamic routing. Now guys, dynamic routing is basically of 4 types. Fine. First is distance vector. Second is third one is, fourth one is path vector. Now guys, I have different routing protocols like fine. I mark this as distance vector, this as link state, and this as path vector. Fine. Basically, routing protocols are of 4 types. One is distance vector, second is advanced distance vector, third is, fourth is path vector. First is RIP. RIP is, second is EIGRP, third one is, fourth one is PGP. Today we will not discuss about RIP. You know what we will discuss about? We will discuss about what are the different properties of distance vector routing protocol. What are the different properties of distance vector routing protocols? Fine. So let us start and give you an overview about distance vector routing protocols. Now guys, look here. Let's say this is R1, this is R2. Guys, try to understand a very important thing. What is that thing? The thing is, this is particular thing is called carrier. What do we call this thing? Carrier. Okay. Let's take an example first of all. When you were in school, how many of you had a habit of going to school by bus? I went to my school by bus. It means bus is a carrier for me. Bus will act as a carrier and bus will take me to the school. Agree? What I was? I was the transport. I was the transport. Who is actually transported from one place to another? Agree or not? This thing is clear? So there are 2 things. You can think it like this. This is my bus stop. Fine. I am standing, not I, my friend. Fine. My friend is standing here. Fine. Bus will come. I will get into the bus. Bus will drop me to the school. So what is this bus? This bus is the carrier. And who I am? Transport. Agree? This thing is clear? Now, let us relate this thing to this diagram. First thing guys, dynamic routing. Now, between R1 and R2 there is a network. Fine. If I am running any routing protocol on R1 and R2, they will not share any update. They will not share. What do you mean by update? They will not share any network information till the time the transport exists. What I am trying to say, if there is no transport, there will be no update. If there is no transport, there will be no update. See, if I am not going to school, there will be no one in the bus. It means carrier will be traveling alone. This thing is fine. Carrier will be empty. There will be no update. So what I am trying to say, if R1 is having no transport networks and there is only carrier, there will be no update. This thing is clear. To send a update, what thing is must? Transport plus carrier. This thing is clear. So if someone asks you, this is R1, this is R2, and I am running a routing protocol between R1 and R2, do they share an update? No. They will not share a update. Why? There is no transport. And who is having this property? Distance vector routing protocols. This thing is clear. So to send an update, what thing is needed? Transport. If there is no transport, there will be no update. This thing is clear. Now yes, any doubts? Updates bro, networks की. किसकी? Like I will give you example. If there is network A, B, C and D, so R1 will tell about A, B, C and D to R2. अब मैं क्या कह रहा हूं, अगर there is no A, no B, no C, no D, there will be no update. ठीक है जी? Agree? संडे को स्कूल बस आती थी कभी? क्यों? उन्हें पता है कोई ट्रांसपोर्ट, there will be no transport on Sunday, so there will be no school bus on Sunday. Fine. Now next thing, R1, R2. So guys, first thing is clear that if there is no transport, there will be no update. So if a router want to send an update, one thing is must, that is transport. What is transport? All of you know. Transport means some other networks other than carrier. Fine. This thing is clear. Now there can be a case like this: R1, R2, network X. This is carrier. Network Y. Now R2 will send an update. Do R1 will send an update? R1. No. Agree? This thing is clear. In this case, R2 will send a update, but R1 will not send a update. This thing is clear. So when update will be sent, this thing is clear. Now next thing, in case of distance vector routing protocol, updates are always periodic in nature. What do you mean by periodic in nature? You have a girlfriend? If you have a girlfriend, you can understand the meaning of periodicity. After every 1 hour, she will say, according to your nature. Fine. After every 1 hour, she will say something. Fine. That's depend on you. We will not discuss it. Fine. So what do you mean by periodic? That after a specific amount of time, this thing will happen. That thing is needed or not, but that thing will happen. The main thing is this. That thing is needed or, but that thing will happen. This point is clear. Next point. Let's dig into this word, distance vector. What do you mean by distance? Yes, distance. He is saying distance means दूरी. तेरी अधूरी कहानी, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है भाई, तेरी भी पूरी होगी कहानी, वक्त आएगा. मजाक था यार, बच्चे बोर हो रहे थे बहुत देर से. ठीक है भाई. Guys, distance means number of hops. This thing is clear? So for distance vector routing protocols, metric will, एक minute. Distance means number of hops. Metric for distance vector routing protocol will be number of hops. What do you mean by this thing? Guys, this is Delhi. This is Gurgaon. This is Rewari. This is Rohtak. Sorry. This is Bahadurgarh. ठीक है भाई. किसी को दिल्ली से कहाँ जाना था? बहादुरगढ़. इस भाई को जाना था. ठीक है भाई. इसने इस भाई से रास्ता पूछा. He is asking for the way. What's your name? Azmat. He is asking way from Azmat. Azmat, tell me the way to Bahadurgarh. Azmat was a clever guy. Azmat told him, go to Gurgaon. After Gurgaon, go to. After Rewari, go to. After Rohtak, go to. When this person came back to Azmat, he was very happy. You know what he told Azmat? I found a shortcut. I went through a long way, but I came back by a short way. Fine. So, what do you mean by number of hops? One hop, second hop, third hop, and if, what's your name? If Shubham want to go from Delhi to Bahadurgarh via Gurgaon, Rewari, Rohtak, how many hops will be there? And he can go directly to Bahadurgarh also. This will be how many hops? One. So, in which path we have least number of hops? Directly path. So, Shubham will always choose which path? Delhi to Bahadurgarh. This thing is clear? So, routing protocol will always define best path on the basis of metric. And what is metric? Number of hops. From the path where number of hops is less, that path is always preferred. This thing is clear? In case of which protocols? Distance vector routing protocols. This thing is clear? We are done with three properties. First is when there will be a transport, only then there will be a update. Second, distance vector routing protocol will send a periodic update. Third, metric will be number of hops. Number of hops are used to select the best path. Fourth thing, what do you mean by vector? Vector means, guys, just try to understand a simple logic. This is R1, this is R2. This is network A, this is network B. Just define static routing. On static, in case of static routing, you will write on R1. If you want to reach B, next stop will be on R2. You will write if you want to reach A. Next stop will be. Guys, in networking, direction means next hop. My next hop will tell me in which direction I have to go. Agree or not? So when R1 will send a update to R2, I am preparing here update. R1 is sending an update. What R1 is sending? Update. In update, there will be network information. Network information is A. Agree? Any issue? Nepali bhai, koi dikkat? In the update, source will be X1 and destination will depend on routing We will discuss it. What will be the destination? It will be broadcast, it will be unicast, it will be multicast. We will discuss it. But for now, leave it. Destination will depend on routing protocol. So, when R2 will receive the update, R2 will see what is the source. X1. It means if I want to reach this network, next hop will be X1. Agree or not? This thing is clear? When R2 will send an update, R2 will send an update. In the update, network information is of B, source will be X2, destination will depend on routing protocol. It will be received by R1. R1 will check. If I want to reach network B, next hop will be X2. This thing is clear or not? So every router, when it will send an update, it will forward next hop information with the update. It will forward next hop information with the, otherwise it is not possible for the other router to predict the next hop. Fine. This thing is clear. This is the fourth property of distance vector routing protocols. Now we will come to fifth property. What is the fifth property? Guys, this is R1. This is R2. This is network A. This is network B. Now, just tell me one thing. Network A is how many hops away from R1? 0? 0. From R2? 1. Agree? Network B is how many hops away from R2? From R1? Agree. Now, when R1 will send an update, R1 will send network information is of network A, source will be X1, destination will be, depends on, metric will be 1. He will say for R2, for you metric will be, because for me metric is 0. Agree? R1 will forward it to R2. Now R2 will make an entry that if I want to reach network A, next hop will be X1 and metric is. Agree or not? But in the beginning, we discussed a third point. What was the third point? Third point. There will be periodic. It means after some time R2 will also send an update to R1 and there can be a chance R2 will list this network A in its own update. Agree or not? Agree or not? Guys, see, if I am calling you to say you are invited for my marriage, we are humans, we can understand that I am inviting you for my marriage. You will not invite for your marriage on the same date. I called you. Fine, you got my thing. Because we are humans, we can understand this thing. Just think like these are two routers. These routers are not humans. This router is sending update to this router. This router is also sending update to this router. What I am saying is, after they have exchanged the update, now the update, the update R2 has received by R1. R2 can send that update saying R1 that this is my update. What I am saying, this time R2 can send an update saying network information is of A and B. Source is X2. Agree? What I am saying, R2 can give network information of A back to R1 saying this is my network. Agree or not? R2 can do this thing to stop this loop. To stop this loop, what we have a rule called split horizon. What is split horizon? Split horizon says if, first of all, this feature is by default enabled on all the interfaces of router. On all the interfaces. Fine. Now, what does this rule says? This rule says if I am receiving an update on this interface, for which network? network A. I will never send update for network A back on this interface. This thing is clear? If I am receiving update of network A on a particular interface, I will not send update of network A back on that particular interface. Agree? Agree. Are you sure? Fine. Any problem? So this particular thing is called split horizon. So these are the basically 5 properties of distance vector routing protocols. Tomorrow we will start with RIP